The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. We're going to be learning about ACE Warehousing with Lanham Associates. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions at any point in the webinar, feel free to type those into the questions box. I'll call them out and get them answered for you. And as usual, we are recording this webinar. We record all of our webinars. So it will be available later this afternoon on our website, enovia.com. And with that, Jim, I will hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Augenstein from Lanham Associates, and thanks for taking the time to go through ACE Warehousing with us. It's been an interesting month with directions and the NAV, and I had a lot of interest and conversation with people about warehousing in the last month, and so I kind of changed a little bit of the direction on which I wanted to go today. It's still, we're going to cover the basics, but I'm going to respond to some questions that have come up very recently, so it's a very timely presentation. So Abby has indicated that we're recording this, so the slides will be available as part of the recording, and if anybody wants the slides in particular, I'm happy to send them to you. My email address will be at the tail end, and we'll send it along. So. Thanks for joining us today. So topics, what are we going to talk about? Well, first of all, I want to just talk about why do we want to move to wireless? Why do customers come to us and say, hey, we want to move to wireless? And we want to differentiate that from barcoding. Barcoding has a kind of a different association with customers. And really what they are asking is, why do we move to wireless? And barcoding can be applied in multiple areas, not necessarily just in a wireless environment. So we'll talk about that. ACE Warehousing is the brand name for our series of modules that we've created to enable wireless in the warehouse. However, ADCS, which stands for Automatic Data Collection Systems, is also a term that's out there, and there's questions all the time about what the difference between ADCS or Microsoft and ACE Warehousing, and we will drill down into that. We will talk about some of the ACE modules. It's not my intent, nor do I have the time today, to describe each and every module in great detail. That really is something that would come out as part of a longer conversation if you're looking at adopting ACE Warehousing based on the needs that you have. There are 6 or 7 modules that really are associated with this, and not always are all the modules necessary. So I'll enumerate them, but I'm not going to make you sit through a detailed presentation on what each module does. It really is more for Enovia and us to figure out as part of an implementation project or a sales project, either way. So, okay, so top reasons of why do we move to wireless and barcode. So first of all, let me just kind of differentiate between barcoding and wireless. I do get that question all the time. Hey, Jim, I've got a customer that wants to move to barcoding. Well, barcoding is just a label. It's just a barcode. It's just a font, basically, that we put on bins, that we put on product, and that sort of thing. And there are ways to use, for example, one of our other products, which is eShip, to talk about or to ship items and get a tremendous bang for your buck or return on investment, if I use the more proper term, by scanning product as we're putting it in boxes or scanning boxes that are already pre-labeled as we're shipping it. And so you can get a tremendous improvement in some of these things, accuracy and productivity, from just that application of a barcode to an item. But that's not typically why people are talking about moving to wireless. Typically, they're coming to us or to Enovia with pain. And our goal is to take away the pain. And generally, I kind of boil it down to my top 5 reasons here. Either we can't find what we're looking for in the warehouse, or we can't find it fast enough. Those are 2 entirely different things. Maybe we're required to ship items and to track items in our warehouse with lots and serial numbers at the warehouse level. And that can be quite complex. And to do that on a paper-based system can be difficult. It can introduce errors and not necessarily the best practice way to go about that. Maybe we're shipping the wrong item, or we need to ship items faster. These are typical reasons when we drill down into the hey, we want to move to wireless. These are the typical kinds of things that we see when we talk to customers about ACE warehousing. So introducing, if any of those issues resonate with you, then ACE warehousing could potentially be an answer for you. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of my topics that we want to talk about ADCS and ACE warehousing. ADCS, again, stands for Automatic Data Collection Systems. That is a module from Microsoft. And it's on the price list, and some customers can look at it or see information about it, and they say, why can't I just use ADCS? ACE warehousing is a series of modules that we created to enhance what's delivered from base Microsoft. And so when we compare ADCS and ACE warehousing with, again, why we want to do these things, the first thing is we're trying to avoid inventory discrepancies. Now, what do I mean by this? ADCS and ACE warehousing are both built inside Dynamics NAV. It's not an external system. And very often we find in external systems, and maybe external warehousing systems, there has to be some sort of an integration layer between the two that's synchronizing the data. When I pick items and ship them, if I'm not using eShip solution or if I'm using a different shipping solution, somebody has to, that database has to get that information over. That synchronization layer, as much as we'd like to say it's always perfect, it isn't, and sometimes we get inventory discrepancies, or maybe it's not timely, and so we have a disparate numbers in NAV versus what the warehouse management system seeks to show. So that's kind of my top reason for why you move to both of these. The other thing is visibility for the whole organization to all the data. Because we're inside NAV, everything that customer service needs to see about the warehouse inventory, if necessary, is visible to them in the same user interface and in the same application. If we move to an external warehouse management system, now we have to log into a different system that potentially could also increase the licensing cost for that extra system if we want to give access. And there are other reasons, but we are obviously fans of having everything inside the single database. It also means that we have then one system that is essentially running the whole business. If you're manufacturing, you're already probably doing your if you're a manufacturer, you're probably already doing your manufacturing inside NAV. And now your warehousing is also contained inside NAV. So again, everything is in one place, easy to find, easy to see, and it's very, very consistent. Customizations, as we know, are very common in NAV. I would say that virtually every implementation of NAV has some level of customization. It could be very simple, but it could be quite complex. I think that's why most people choose NAV. They're looking for a system that can be easily tailored to do exactly what it is that they want to do. And the advantage of using ADCS and ACE warehousing is that we're using the same tools that exist inside NAV for other customizations, Seaside and the CAL development language. And a NAV programmer can create customizations. If we need to add something, for instance, in the way that the put away activity happens or the pick activity happens, then that can be done. So a NAV programmer can do to us. That's a plus. You don't have to find someone else or rely on just the other software publisher if they don't have access to an SDK that the programmer can use. Then you have to rely on someone else creating those apps for you. And finally, and this kind of really wraps up the whole conversation, there's no integration issues with ADCS and ACE warehousing. Everything, again, is inside the same database, so we don't have to worry about the synchronization or the timing, let alone the potential discrepancies. So this is why we think that ADCS and ACE warehousing really combine together, create what we consider a best-of-breed warehouse management transactional system. Now, we don't try to be transportation management, and there's other solutions out there for that, but we are a transactional-based solution that's running off of the standard NAV transactions. Now, I did make an assumption presentation that the audience would have some level of understanding of NAV warehousing. If that isn't the case, I guess raise your hand or ask a question, and I'm happy to define some of the base terms. But warehouse shipment, warehouse pick, put-aways, those kinds of activities, I kind of made the assumption today that the audience will understand those. If you're a complete novice to warehousing, then again, let me know, and I'll maybe define some of those as we go inside NAV. So now that's ADCS and NAV warehousing. And I think I'm missing a slide here. I don't know if give me one change. It's okay. I just got it out of sequence in my head. So why Lanham ACE Warehousing? All right. So now we're looking. We've already. What have we done inside ACE Warehousing to make it stream? Well, this slide is going to talk about kind of but in addition to that, we've also added some the way warehousing works. It's not our intent to design or recreate what Microsoft has already done, but along the years, we have learned a few things and added in some functional features that we think really enhance the way the warehousing product will work and make it a better experience for most customers. And so I have a list here of some of those. First of all, I several of the processes, we make it more efficient. Right now, when you go into the warehouse shipment in standard NAV, you go into the warehouse shipment screen, and you have to create the warehouse shipment, or you can create the warehouse shipment directly from the sales order. After you've created that shipment, then you go in and create the warehouse picks. It's kind of a two-step process, and we think it kind of adds time into the way the warehouse really wants to run. So we've added a screen that allows us to create the shipment and the pick directly. We've kind of improved the way cross-docking works. Right now, when you cross-dock inside NAV, when you receive product and you create the put-away, the entire put-away needs to be registered before you can actually cross-dock the activity. We've kind of decoupled that, I suppose, so that we can cross-dock and do put-aways at the same time without having the whole warehouse receipt having to be put away. And then on the put-aways, we've added in some functional methods to create the put-aways more easily. Pallet put-away, dynamic put-aways, and we've kind of streamlined that process as well. Adding visibility to availability, this is a big one. When you move to warehousing inside NAV, and ADCS, ACE Warehousing both require full NAV warehousing. It's what we call advanced warehousing. In the prior to 2013 days, those were additional modules that you had to purchase. Although since the licensing model has changed with 2013, if you buy the extended pack, then all the prerequisites that you need are inside the extended pack. And that then changes what we consider to be available. When I receive product in NAV and into a NAV location, the product is immediately available to customer service. What they can see is I've got 100 pieces or 100 cases, whatever you're measuring, available now to sell. But maybe you've got quality control, and maybe you've got other issues where the full amount of inventory is not yet in pickable bins. And in NAV, we define bins by their by functions. And a pickable bins means that this inventory is something I can pick and ship right away. But we also have quality control bins. We have what we call put-away bins, where maybe we're storing stuff on high and it's in bulk storage. It isn't readily available to pickers. So we've added a fact box onto the sales order that lets us drill down and see very quickly how much inventory do I really have for pickable inventory as of right now. In a high velocity kind of environment where if I take the order by noon, it ships by 3, well, maybe the warehouse can't get the bulk inventory pulled down from pick bins. So being able to see kind of very granularly from sales order what my pickable inventory looks like is actually a very nice tool for service. So we've added visibility into the granular availability of product inside the warehouse. We've really kind of enabled a lot of serial number tracking inside the warehouse by using wireless devices. In standard NAV, to do that with standard ADCS, that isn't included in what's delivered to be able to process waste in that solution. Added the ability in ACE warehousing to be able to process those. Took the ADCS to Microsoft in a very, very basic way to use the handhelds and to create screen things that you need process activity. It would be at minimum a month or more likely closer to 3 months worth of development each and every time, because ADCS is primarily a toolkit that was the intent was that partners would use it to develop a solution. So it would require 1 to 3 months of development to create really kind of a robust warehouse management system that you would need. We've obviously shortened that time to like 0 time because they're now available as modules. And in addition, there's some additional detailed optimizations and enhancements that we've added in that I'm going to cover in a different slide, and we're going to look at some of those today. So ADCS comes out of the box. And what you see on the left-hand side is a listing of screens. What we call these mini forms. These mini forms are what we use and what we see on the handheld device. It's what the user operates with in order to process or to transact the activity inside the warehouse. And so these are this is a listing from the object designer of the 6 or 7 screens that are delivered by Microsoft. There's not very many. When you look at this list, it's too big for me to put onto a single slide. We have somewhere between 150 and 180 different screens, depending on what you're using, that are built out along with the code that are necessary to execute the activity in the warehouse. With the standard ADCS at Microsoft, you get support for just some very basic transactions: a put away, a pick, a movement, and physical inventory. And all of the transactions are initiated first inside the NAV client. So again, if you're familiar with NAV warehousing, you're familiar with a thing called a put away worksheet. When I have some goods that are in the receiving area and it comes time to put them away, I go into the put away worksheet. I populate that worksheet like many of the worksheets inside NAV using either a variety of filters or just selecting a receipt document, and then I create the put away. Well, that may work in cases, in some environments, but we think that there's probably better ways to manage the put away activity. But at a minimum, those all need to be initiated inside the NAV client. And once they're initiated, the users on the handheld device can execute those activities. The term that we use in warehousing is register. Post things from the warehouse, because posting has a very definite connotation in NAV, or definition in NAV, I should say, and that is that when we post things, generally there's a general ledger implication associated with those. So in the warehouse, we use the term register. So anything that's created in NAV, then I it on the handheld device. Well, so that's what the very, very most basic process looks like from Microsoft. And we support that with our ACE Basics. If the customer wants to start out, if you want to start out very quickly, and you're looking for just the most straightforward implementation, then ACE Basic is the one module that you would need from us in order to execute those. Now, we've added even some functionality into the basic processing from Microsoft with our ACE Basic, and it's not a bad way to start out. Although I would say most of our customers end up with ACE Basic and ACE Dynamic. Dynamic is, by its name implies, the ability to dynamically create certain transactions on the handheld device in the warehouse where it makes the most amount of sense. So instead of creating the put away on the NAV client, I can do it on the handheld device. And essentially all of the transactions that we typically use in the warehouse can be initiated there. We don't generally do picks there. There's good reasons to create picks elsewhere, and we'll look at outbound warehouse requests and talk about that. So the pick pack module is what ties the registered pick into eShip, and we'll see a definition or see that today. I'll cover that in more detail once we have the NAV up and running. Extended features adds in some different picking strategies, different picking styles, and some additional functionality for more advanced features if you need them. If your wave picks or some other picking styles are what you need or what makes sense for your warehouse, then we've added those into the picking strategy in conjunction with the outbound warehouse request. Production data capture. So if you're using production and you want to register output and to capture consumption and to process the inventory picks or the internal picks associated with production orders, then we can do that with the data capture module. We also support doing wireless purchase order or wireless inbound receiving with the data capture module as well. And then finally, the outbound warehouse request is really my favorite screen, and I actually have a slide to cover some of the details on what outbound warehouse request delivers into the solution. I could spend an hour or more on just an outbound warehouse request demo, and I only have an hour here today, so I'm not going to spend that much time. But there are a few details about this that I wanted to have in the slides. So first of all, I really kind of referred to it as the warehouse manager screen. In base NAV, there really is nowhere to go to, first of all, answer the question, what do I need to ship? Or what can I ship today? Or what kind of activities do I need to do to keep my inventory balanced in pickable bins? What kind of replenishment do I need? And so on and so on. A number of activities that we need to process in the warehouse in order to ship goods in a timely manner. And so this screen consolidates all of my outbound activity and allows me to analyze, review my data, and assign and create transactions as necessary. So it really is a warehouse manager's one point of entry, or a dispatch manager, if that's a term, to create and manage my warehouse activity. It gives us, first of all, an overview of my outbound activity. And so notice it's not just sales. So sales orders, transfers, and return to vendors. Those are all things that we ship out to different entities. And so all of our activity is then viewable in the outbound warehouse requests. I mentioned earlier about creating the shipments and the picks in one step, and this is where we do that. So rather than go to the shipment screen, create the shipment, then create the picks, we can, after we've done our work to determine what I want to process, I have one button that says create shipment, and then it creates the shipment and the pick as needed. Okay, so inside NAV in our warehouse, we have a concept called replenishment. This applies if you are one of those customers that are using bulk storage by products up high and to refill the pickable bins, which generally are down at human, where we can reach it by hand. Of course, we realize that some warehouses use cherry pickers and kinds of things, so you may pick from on high as well. But if you're in that bulk storage process and you want to replenish your pickable bin, NAV has a job that's called bin replenishment. And it works by the creation of min maxes, quantities on our pickable bins. And then we run the replenishment job using standard NAV filters to either filter down to an aisle or a set of bins or some items. And we replenish all of those that are below the bin. Well, that is what one warehouse manager recently said to me is busy work, because in the way that NAV does it, it replenishes any bin that's below its pickable level, but it doesn't know if we have actual down demand or warehouse where we can look only that replenishment activity where we have and needed or outbound demand needed for those items. And so we're really going for what we need right now to ship. And so we've enabled that replenishment just for the demand that we see on outbound activity. Action codes. Action codes are used to filter and select orders in order to manage our outbound activity. Now, the filters are generally looking at the statistics associated with our bins. Do I have orders that must ship complete, and I have all pickable bins? I can pick. Do I have maybe what I call my load orders? Do I have orders with just one item on it? Those are quick bins. So I want to find those one-item orders first and assign those to someone to pick and get them out the door. Do I need to filter for a particular customer and only pick those orders first? I need to filter for UPS orders, and so on and so on.
I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty with Jim's audio this morning. I know he's actually in Europe calling into our webinar. So I think we lost his audio, but I know he's going to probably jump out and jump right back in. So bear with us for just a moment here, and hopefully we will get Jim back in with his audio, and we can continue our presentation. And of course, just as a reminder to everybody, we record all of our webinars at Innovia so that you can refer back to them later. You can share them with other people within your organization. It's a really good toolbox for anything you're curious about, you want to know more about. All you have to go to our, all you have to do is go to our website, innovia.com, and there is a drop-down menu.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I sure can, Jim. I was just telling everyone they can view past webinars on our website, but take it away.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I am traveling in Europe this week, and sometimes have problematic connection with my internet. So sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know, Abby, that you'd lost it. So the last thing about outbound warehouse requests is that it does require that we're working with advanced warehousing using bin types. I get this question all the time. People see this screen, they love it, and they want to use it for basic sales order processing and for basic inventory picks. But because of the way that we're using it to report around the pickable bins versus non-pickable bins, it does require that we're using bin types. At some point in the future, I would love for us to see us to create a more simplified version of this that would still allow us to slice and dice and answer the questions. But the bin types is very, very key to how the functional, how we calculate our inventory as being available. So it does require that we have that. So it does require advanced warehousing with bin types. Okay, some functional additions that we have, and we're gonna look at these here in the system. I think we're running. Yeah, we're pretty good. We're able to take a look at all these. So first of all, pallet put away and movements, and I want to differentiate pallet put away from license plating. License plating is something that we have added. It is version 1 right now, and there's some improvements that we're hoping to make to that soon. But pallet put away has been around for a long time. So this means that I can build up pallet information during my receiving operation, and then use that pallet distinction to do my put away. Now, do I need that if I built up a pallet with a quantity of 50 cases of the same item? Probably not. There's probably easier ways to do that. If I'm doing serial number items, then the pallet put away is great for that because we do a single scan rather than have to scan all the serial numbers. So there are strategies that we can use even to the extent of printing a label during the receiving process that says this is the item number and this is the quantity, so that when I scan that, I don't have to do multiple scans. So we don't always need to go straight to license plating, even though a lot of customers think that that's necessary. sometimes there isn't a really good reason to do that. And movements as well. We can do movements with that put away label. Dynamic operations, again, I kind of described those. This is the ability to create certain activity dynamically on the handheld where it makes sense, and we'll look at that. Optimal picking path is something that we've added in. So we know that warehouses, the most expensive transaction in the warehouse is walking, next to replacing the battery in the handheld. But walking is the most expensive activity. So we want to try and define a path in the warehouse where we're walking in the most efficient manner. And when we first set up our warehouse, knowing the way that SQL Server and NAV use data fields to sort, we create this really fabulous bin structure where we've defined the perfect path. Well, then something happens. We have to add pickable bins. We have to change the physical layout of the warehouse, any number of reasons, and we need to make changes. Now our optimal picking path that we define with our very clever bin codes is gone. Now you can, of course, create new bin codes, but that's not easy in NAV. We have to delete all the inventory from the bins, change the bin codes, and then receive the inventory back. As you can imagine, it's like changing a costing method or those kinds of things. So we've defined, we've given a method to create a better, an easier and faster way to create the optimal picking path. The pick-to-tote functionality, again, is contained inside our pick-pack module, and it is what enables us to tie the registered pick to eShip for very fast shipping, and we'll see that. And then finally, this is a big one, and there are others, but this is kind of my favorite list, all that I figured I had time for, physical inventory live while actually shipping. So if you're using NAV warehousing in a paper-based way now, and you do a physical inventory, you know that you create the physical inventory journal, you print your count sheets or whatever it is that you do, and in the meantime, all shipping has to stop for that area that you're counting. What we've done is we've added some code to allow us to pick and count at the same time in the same bins so that you don't have to shut down shipping. So no more shutting down the warehouse for Christmas for a week in order to count the warehouse. You can cycle count, which is a much better strategy anyway, as you're shipping and keep the inventory levels accurate and up to date. There really is no good reason to do a full warehouse inventory anymore unless the accountants insist upon it. Cycle counting, and there are plenty of whites that will defend this, is a much consistent cycle counting program. You're going to produce much more accurately than doing a full warehouse physical, which is almost never in the first application. So cycling is a great strategy, but not if you have to freeze, you can do it without. And there are other enhancements that we've added. I have said if I do too much on the hour-long hours, that the retention is kind of low. So I'm focusing on some highlights today. There are other things that we've done, and if you've got an interest, of course, I'm happy to spend more time with you, as is the Innovia folks, drilling down into more details as needed. Okay, so let me change here into NAV. Give me just one moment, and we'll take a look at some stuff. And before I do that, Abby, are there any questions in the queue before we get started?
No questions yet, Jim.
Great, thanks, Abby. Okay, so one little note about environment here. I normally demo on a live handheld device, and it because I'm able to do that. It connects wirelessly, and then you can kind of see exactly what I'm doing. It kind of looks like let me connect here. Oh, I can't even connect. It runs in this window, and you see the actual wildlife that I'm executing on. For some reason here in the hotel that I'm staying in, the firewall activity, I'm not entirely sure why, but I can't get the wireless device connected to the wireless network in the hotel, and so I'm not able to use it. So I am going to have to use a utility that we call a terminal, and the menuing structure that looks exactly the same. It's that blue, and it has a skin or a presentation of the handheld device itself. So I am going to have to work in for today. But the menus that you see here, in this case 1 through 9, is exactly what you would see on the handheld device. Now let me talk just briefly about the menus. They are character-based, and they're character-based because the ADCS component that delivers for Microsoft is what we're using to create our solution. And if and when Microsoft creates a different tool for us to use, then the screens might change. But for now, this is the tool that we have. We're very much in favor of using those things that are provided by the software publisher, CAL, Seaside, and ADCS falls in that category. Now, what ADCS delivers, in addition to those screens that I had on the slide earlier, is the connection to the database. Depending upon your version, we either use a Navision application server or web services to communicate to the database, but it's provided by the ADCS core set of tools. In addition, there's a screen called the Mini-Form Designer, and the Mini-Form Designer allows us to create these menus we need that the users operate on. It's very easy once they've been created to change the way the menus operate, and those menus are to a particular. So for example, if you've got workers and all they need to do is receive product and maybe create a put away activity, and that's all they do, then that's all you would give them on their menu. And so their transactional activity is very, very simple. For me, for demo, I have a little bit more activity, and that also means that I may have more sub menus that I go into, but don't let that put you off. If you've got some transactions or activity that you need to have higher up in the menu, it's easy to change, and we can bring them up higher. So for example, you'll see here that I have option number 8 is a miscellaneous menu, and on my miscellaneous menu, I have a bin content lookup screen. So if I'm just trying to find some inventory in some bins, or if I'm at a particular bin and something looks wrong and I want to say, hey, what does the system think I have in that bin? I can scan the bin content, I would choose option number 2, and I would scan the bin code, and I would see, hey, okay, this is what the system shows me in that bin. It's I've got 10 pieces of item number 79000, right? Now, if you think that that bin code lookup should be at a higher place on the menu, it's an easy thing to bring it up higher, and then it would be on perhaps on the main menu. So that's what the menuing kind of structure looks like. And I know that it's text-based, and I hear that some say, why isn't it Windows-based? Well, our experience is that Windows, warehouse managers actually want a system that's fast and easy to learn, and the character-based menuing structure really provides that. It's fast, it's easy to learn, and because we're not using Windows from a data perspective, the amount of data that's flowing back and forth on the network is really reduced. So the performance is actually pretty brisk over some of a web service-based type application that's using Windows screens. And if you add in perhaps the wide area network potentialities, if you've got multiple locations all running from the central server, then performance is enhanced by having a very small data packet that flows back and forth. So I know it's not attractive. I'm the first one to acknowledge that, but there are some really good reasons why ADCS still exists in a character-based environment. I guess finally the last one is we have customers that are on the border in California and Texas, and English is definitely not the primary language. And it seems like the positional notation of the menus are easy to learn if that's not the primary language. So it's quick and easy to teach someone, hey, option number 1 is this, option number 2 is that, particularly if you've got a very limited focus on the activity for a particular person. So there are some good reasons for it. Okay, so here I have, let's go take a look, and just so we can start off, I'll show you a couple things on the inbound side. So here I have a purchase order. And let me close this here. And by the way, this is NAV 2013, no, 2015. And NAV 2016, of course, you know, was released last month. And all of our products are available in NAV 2016. I don't have a demo environment yet that is fully up and running. It was just in directions last week. but I got this, so I'm not quite 100% there on 2016, but the warehouse functionality is the same in those two versions. There's nothing different. But the user interface here is 2015. So here's I've got a purchase order, and it's you can see I've actually already done some partial receiving on that today just to cache some activity in the database. And so this is one that we'll be operating with to begin with. So now the wireless receiving is possible. So we'll go here, and right now I would choose option number 7 if I want to begin my receiving process. Right now we have 2 screens. We've got an option of doing a purchase order list to review my list of purchase orders that are available, and I also have an option of going straight to the order if I know the order number. And so if it's on your packing list and you've got that ready to go, then you could just scan or enter the order number, and that begins the setup of the receiving activity. And then it's just begin scanning items and building up my receipt. Now, we've designed this to be very user-friendly from a receiving perspective. What we have found is that everyone has a different way of doing it. Some people have containers that are delivered, and a guy crawls up in the container and starts throwing down boxes. And then someone stacks the box based by SKU, maybe on a pallet, and we sort as we go through because that's the way the container received. Other customers have pallets of goods that are shrink wrapped from their suppliers, and on the outside there might be some labeling that we can scan, which gives us the quantities. And so there's a wide variety of ways that we receive. And sometimes we want to start putting away inventory before the entire purchase order or shipment has been received. And so we have it set up so that the worker who's doing the receiving actually kind of triggers their workflow, and when they're done, quote unquote, and ready to generate some put away, they indicate that they're done. So here I'm saying, for example, I'm going to do a quantity of 10, and let's say that that's a full pallet. That's all it can fit on that pallet, and I want to put this away. I'm not prompted for the end of the purchase order because we don't know when we've reached the end. Maybe we have a partial, and we're not going to ever reach the end. And so the worker then says, I'm done, hits the F3 key, and says, register my document. Okay? Now, when I register my document, that now has created a receipt. And if we go look here at my purchase order, you'll see now that we've received 30, so we received 10 more. So that is a dynamic receiving on the handheld device, and what that looks like. Okay, it doesn't get any more complex than that. Well, actually, that's not true. It does get more complex than that if you're in a lot or serial number environment. If you need to capture lot and serial, that's totally fine. If you need to capture expiration dates, that's fine as well. It's just a question of how much data do we have available to us at this point in the receiving process, and how we have item tracking configured inside NAV. Okay, and I want to do one more activity here on my handheld and show you something different. Now I'm going to use a different purchase order number, 106032, 106032. Okay, I must have received that and not changed it earlier. Let me just take a quick look here. Oh yeah, I didn't fully receive that. So let me change my PO here, or I did fully receive it. So let me go back into this one and add some inventory. We will reopen, and we'll just change the quantity here, and we'll make this 30. Okay. Notice my unit of measure here is box. Okay. Now, when I go look at my inventory item, and then navigate over to my units of measure and my cross-references, I wanted to show you here that we fully support, and not all solutions do, but we fully support the ability to acknowledge that we've got multiple different barcodes potentially that could be received. So maybe this vendor sometimes ships us in pieces, maybe they ship us in boxes. So that's how I have set up. So I want you to see that we can do that on the device. And let me, oh, did I release it? Yes, good, okay. So now we'll scan, and I'm just using a web scanner here for the purposes of being able to scan items today. I'm going to scan my barcode. You unfortunately can't see that, but what I actually scanned was a 79001B, which represents the box. And you'll note that the unit of measure here was pulled in, and that's how you know I'm not scanning pieces. So I can go ahead and receive my additional 10 boxes. And again, I'm done. I'm getting ready to put this away, so I do my register. And now I'm ready to go. So now I've got some product which is ready to be put away. And let's go into my bin contents here for just a second so you can see what we have. And in my gold location, I've kept it very simple. So far, I've only got 10 pieces of the 79000 in this bin code. And there's nothing else in my actual pick bins, but I do have some inventory in my receiving bin. Notice I've got some pieces of 7900, and I have some boxes of my 79001. So I want to talk about some of the different putaways. And the first one I want to do is, again, this is different than base nav, so this is the dynamic putaway. And we have a couple of options here. The simplest one is option number 5. And this reflects the customer that sometimes have a guy that drives up in a forklift, wants to grab a pallet of goods and create the putaway. Just wants to leverage the tools in the system that says, hey, where do I go put this? And so we're going to create the putaway dynamically with the limit of the worker doing the putaway in mind. So, and right now I'm using multiple receiving areas. So this arrival scan is can be suppressed if I want to. GR001 is my receiving zone, receiving bin. If you only have one receiving bin, that scan can be suppressed, or we can default that value. And so I scan that, and then what item am I going to put away? Well, I'm going to say I've got some 79,000s, and I can put away 10. That's what 10 is on the pallet, right? So I've scanned that, and now this is all I can carry. So I use my F3 key, and I say create putaway. Now what happens then is instead of going into NAV and creating that putaway, I've created it on the handheld device because that's all I can do. Now I choose option number 2, and it is, since I just created the putaway, it's assigned to me. That is something we can suppress if we want to. We can leave them open. But now you can see that I've got the 10, and it's telling me where to go put it, and I would just scan that when I get there. So forklift drives up, scans the item barcode on the pallet, sees that there's 10, or maybe we've printed a quantity of 10 on the skid, and then says create putaway. The system then, we use the logic that is existing in the system to know which bin to put it in. It's suggesting GP003. When I get there to GP003, I scan that, and in this case I do scan the product again and the quantity that I am putting away. Now, because this is a finite document, we know what's on there. The user is prompted to know, prompted that he's done, and so he registers the document. And then if we go back into bin contents and look, refresh, now you can see that I have 20 here instead of the 10 that we had when we started. I still have 10 pieces left. Okay, so that's one option on the putaway. I did mention that there's another dynamic pallet putaway option, and that is here. This is option number 6. So now when I choose option number 6, again, I'm in my arrival, my receiving bin. Now, what pallet number am I putting away? And so when it's possible during the receiving process to create a unique pallet ID, and I would scan, or I create that when I do my receive process. Right now we use eReceive to do that, and I didn't want to take the time to show you that today, but eReceive is the product that we would use to create that. So I have that pallet label, and then I just scan that label. Oops, wrong pallet, 5. Okay. So R0005, now notice when I scan that single label, there's nothing in here about the items that are on that pallet. Most customers don't put multiple items on a pallet into pickable bins. It is somewhat unusual, but it is now aware of the at least the item that is on that pallet. Again, if you had lot and serial numbers, perhaps multiple lots on a pallet, that's certainly common in a bin. Then wouldn't have to redo that scanning that I did on the inbound side. And then when I get to my put-away bin, I just scan that put-away bin. I didn't create a label for that, so I have to enter it on the keyboard. And now that put-away is done. I don't even have to do the register because I only have the one item. We know it's there. So now if I refresh here, you'll see that now I've taken some out of my receiving and I put some away into my GP007 bin, which is the default bin for boxes, and I've got some that I moved here earlier. So that's what that dynamic pallet put away looks like. Very fast and efficient if it fits what you need inside your environment, and something that we have added into the product. Now dynamic movements are very similar. If I have some product that I'm moving from bin to bin, for example, I can see here that I've got this product 79001. It's in GP007 and GP004. Well, maybe we had it stored in multiple bins. This is the bin that was suggested because that's the default bin. But I want to marry these up properly, so I'm going to put this back into GP004. And so that is accomplished in a number of ways. We have a dynamic movement, or we have a dynamic pallet move. So I could do this option number 6, dynamic pallet bin. All right, now what bin am I in? Again, I'm in my starting in GP007 because this is the pallet that I want to move. And what's my pallet number? So I scan my pallet ID again, like I just did, and say what bin am I going to move that into. Let's get that married up with the other ones, GP004. And now when I refresh over here, F5, you'll see that I've taken that out of GP007, falls off my list, and now my boxes have been updated, okay, into my into that bin. So that's an example of a dynamic movement, different than a dynamic put away, but dynamic movement, and that's something that we really want to enable our folks to be able to do. I can also create option number 5, a dynamic move, and create the movement myself. If I had multiple items that I wanted to move, and if I'm not using pallet labels, then I can scan the items and move them as well. So if I want to consolidate things into different bins, I can do that. All right, so that's kind of some examples, first of all, of using the dynamic putaways, creating dynamic activity, pallet bins, and those kinds of activities. Okay, I wanted to show, well, I'm going to run out of time here. So let me show you something. I mentioned bin sorting or optimal picking path, and let me just show you how that's created. So I need to go into my bin contents here, this one. So this bin sorting, let me filter, no, that's not what I want to go to. I want to go to locations. And look at bins. So this is all of my, these are all of my bins in my gold location, and which is a demo location. So this column here, this is the column that we have added into NAV to allow for creating that optimal picking path. Now, right now, this kind of represents what would happen if we started off with, because we know that NAV sorts using standard SQL Server sorting terms from lowest to highest as an option. So if I were to create a pick for a bunch of items and it was spread across multiple bins, it's going to start with 1, then go to 2, then go to 3. It's the same thing I do over here, 1, 2, 3. But now something changes, and I want to change my sort order. All I have to do is go in here and change my bin sorting value, and restart from high to low, and then it'll change the behavior in the way the pick presentation looks on the handheld device. This does not work in paper-based. This only works on the handheld using our product. So this would change the order then, and if something were to change, I can change or add these numbers. If I add some more picking bins, I can add them in, and this is how I maintain that. So then this sorting is what's taken into consideration when I generate the pick activity, as opposed to having to change it over here. So it's a nice, fast, easy way to create that optimal picking path. If you're interested in that, of course, I usually talk and I drill down and can show transactions, and we can compare and contrast how that looks from a timing perspective. Wow, okay, mouse request. Let's get to that for just a second. So outbound warehouse requests, I have a couple of documents in here, and I'll spend just a couple of minutes with respect to time. I'll have to stop because I'm running a little bit long, which is normal. But I have a couple, and the first question is, what can I pick? So you can see here that I already have a pick generator for this, and so I get that information here. For that order, I don't have a pick generated yet. But I can see that on this order I have 12 something. I don't know what. I've got 12 something, and in this particular case, I have no inventory available. So it's a problem. I can't generate the pick for this particular order. All right. On this particular one, I do have some inventory or a pick that's already created, and I've got 4 pieces on that. So let me go delete this pick, and we can see what the process looks like from the very beginning. I forgot to do that before we started here, so let me start here. Delete. And then we'll go delete the shipment as well. Now, the other thing I didn't mention is that this really serves a customer service function as well. If the once the customer service folks understand what they're looking at inside the outbound warehouse request, and let me refresh this, you'll see what falls off. They can know immediately where does an order stand inside the warehouse. The only exception being they don't know exactly where the order stands, how it's being picked. So if I've got a order with 50 items on it, I'm right in the middle of the pick. That's the one thing I can't see, but I can see that I am able to where the order stands. So I don't have to pick up the phone or grab the radio and say, hey, tell me what's the status in order number 1039. So how does this work? So here I am. I can see I've got 8 items outstanding on this order. I've got 8 available, meaning I've got 8 somewhere in my warehouse, but what's this? I've got some that are stored in a higher unit of measure, boxes. I need pieces. I don't have any pieces in the system. So there's a process inside NAV called break bulk, which will automatically take the box unit of measure. It'll break it down into eaches, and then allow me to pick for those eaches. And this works because I've got a box stored in a pickable bin. So I can ship this order complete, but I am going to have to process a break bulk operation first. Right? Now, I mentioned in the introduction about filters. I want to quickly show you kind of an idea of how the filters work. Here under my actions, I have action entries, and the statistics here, I'm not going to define all of them, but what we're doing is we're calculating where do I stand from an inventory perspective for my items. So for example, this total available quantity is a certain metric, and if I click on this, and it then populates the action code here for my, in this case I have the 2 orders, and notice this one got nothing. So this means everything I need for this item is available somewhere in my warehouse. Not necessarily in pickable bins, I might have it in bulk storage, but it's all available somewhere within the 4 walls of my warehouse. I can also say, hey, I only want to see where, excuse me, where that's total available. That's in all my warehouses with a break bulk, where I have any inventory which might be reserved, or if I've got inventory where I need to bring some down and replenish bins, then that would be the total is greater than available quantity. Available quantity is talking about in pickable bins. So that's what we use these action codes for. Now, and what we do is we let the system do the thinking. I don't have to go through there and look at an order-by-order basis. I can just let the system do that for me. And then once we've found all the orders that meet my criteria, then the next step is to right-click and to filter, and then I create the picks and the shipments for just that order. Okay. Now I created a pick and a shipment for just that order, and let's go. This is what the pick looks like inside. Come on, Jim. Looks like inside base nav. So you'll see here that I'm actually breaking bulk. I'm saying here's a box of 6. I'm going to break it down and put some eaches into my bin, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick my order. Those are more activity that you would see in a paper-based warehouse, but on the handheld it looks a little differently. So let's log in and take a look at this pick. Okay, now when I get to my bin, I'm going to scan my bin and then scan my item number, and then I'm actually going to put this in a tote, and this is that link to eShip, and we'll talk about what that looks like. And then I have GP004, my next bin, and 79001. And I'm going to put this in a different tote. Let's say I'm putting it into the shipping box itself, quantity 4. And then I'm done, and so I register my document. Now, once I register my document, that pick has been completed. And if we go look here, F5, and refresh, you'll notice that my pick drops off. Well, why did that happen? It dropped off because I registered it. And now customer service can see, hey, wait a minute, I've got a shipment here. I have no pick. I have no worker assigned to it. And yet there's a checkbox here which says warehouse completely handled. And forgive me, I'm going to run a little bit long, probably a couple of minutes. I want to ship this order so you can see the integration to with the tote ID and eShip. So, but the warehouse completely handled. I know this order has been picked. It just hasn't been shipped yet. So let's go into eShip and see what happens when I actually ship the order. And eShip is very much a part of ACE Warehousing in the sense that we've tied them together to make the shipping process very fast and efficient. So if you're used to using eShip, you know that what you do is you start off by scanning an order number here. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to scan a tote number instead, that tote that we just scanned. And you'll notice that it retrieves my order number 1039. So this really enables a paperless environment. I don't have to have a pick ticket go out to the warehouse so that shipping knows what they're shipping. I can just scan that tote number. Now, if I have packed into a box that I'm going to actually ship, then there is a function called select tote, and I can use this to then say, okay, this is the tote that I'm shipping. All my goods fit in that box. I'm good. And now you'll notice that it populates down below the 4 pieces that are going in that box. And then in normal eShip method, I do a closed package, which then prints the UPS label or the carrier label, and off we go, right? So I didn't have to scan the individual items. But let me delete all my packages here, and let's say that that isn't the case. Maybe I have, I'm just using the tote to link to the warehouse so I can be paperless and just to retrieve my order. So now I scan my tote ID again, it retrieves my order, and now I'm going to repackage, right? So maybe I've shipped it, I picked the goods into a plastic tote that has an ID on it, and I'm going to reuse that plastic tote. So now I am going to repackage my items. Well, then I start off by scanning my items, and I'm setting the default to a quantity of 1 here. Let's assume that I put 2 in a box, and then I would do my standard close package command. Oops, that's close receive. Close package command here in eShip, and there we go. So the tote functionality can be used for a variety of different methods. If you're in a pallet-based environment where you pick to a ship pallet, if you grab 5 of this and put it on a pallet, 6 of that, put it on a pallet, 7 of that, put it on a pallet, and then deliver that pallet to shipping, as long as you use that tote ID to represent that pallet ID, I don't have to rescan items again to ship that particular pallet. So the linked eShip is a very powerful thing we've added into ACE Warehousing with the pick pack module as well. So you know what? I am out of time. I apologize for running over. It seems like it always takes me a little bit longer to get through my introductory slides. So I'm not going to be able to get to all the other functions. If I piqued your interest here today, then please reach out to Innovia, to me, and I'm happy to drill down into more of the details and to look at more of the additional functionality that we've added into ACE Warehousing. And so with that, I first of all say thank you for joining us. And I want to let you know about something new. It's the Supply Chain Summit at Lanham. It's late spring, early summer, and our intent is for end users and partners to be able to attend. And it's going to be 3-day detailed sessions covering EDI, eShip, eReceive, and ACE Warehousing. This is your chance to learn directly from us, to go down deeper, perhaps to explore areas that you've wondered about, to ask questions in a format, in a forum that allows us more time than NAV or directions. We do not have the precise dates yet, but those will be forthcoming. It will be a 3-day session. We do know that it will be in Atlanta, Georgia. And my email address here is there, jima@lanhamassociates.com. Please reach out to me if you've got interest in learning about the Supply Chain Summit, and I will get you added to that email distribution list. If I have piqued your interest into some additional functionality in ACE Warehousing, please also contact Inovia or myself, and either one of us, and I'll contact them if you come to me, or they'll contact me if you come to them. We can spend more time looking at ACE Warehousing in a way that fits your needs more precisely. I will tell you that warehousing is very configurable. There's a lot of ways to do things, and we just kind of scratched the surface on some of the functionality here today. And I thank you for your time, and Abby, thanks for making the time available to us.
Thank you so much, Jim, and I want to wish everyone a good day, and we'll see you at our next webinar.